Hey everybody, Mark Bates here. Today I want to show you how to deploy a Buffalo app to Heroku using Docker. It's actually very simple. The first thing you need to do is go to the Heroku Dev Center and just check that out and make sure that you are part of the beta. I think everybody is. But follow the steps to make sure you have the container registry plugin installed, that you're logged into the Heroku container registry, etc., etc. Really just those first couple steps. I'll link to this in the blog post as well, so you can find it very easily. Now, back here I have a simple brand new Buffalo app. There is absolutely nothing fancy about it. It is just stock. I just ran Buffalo new bloggy and gave me this app. The only two things I've done to this app is I've done an initial git commit, which isn't anything special, and I added a Docker ignore file. This is kind of a generic Docker ignore file I use to ignore the git folder, bin, log files, the node modules, that sort of thing. Other than that, absolutely nothing else special about this Buffalo app here. So it's all very straightforward. So the first thing we're going to need is a Docker file. So let's create one of those. Now, for those of you who've been following the Buffalo blog, know that we released Buffalo images recently, and they're always being updated, which is fantastic. Very excited about that. So we can use those images to build our Docker file here. So we can say from go Buffalo latest, which is 082 as of the time recording this. I could also do, I believe, that. But I'm just going to stick with latest for right now. And then we're going to do run make dir -p go path /src /github.com /go buffalo /bloggy. The Buffalo Docker files have Go already installed, and by default, you're actually already in the Go path /source folder, so you're kind of good to go there. And let's see here. I'm going to set my working directory to that same folder here, bloggy. Then I'm going to add all my files. Then let's see, we're going to run npm install, and then we're going to run buffalo build -o bin app. So we're going to install all the node and npm dependencies for this application. If there are any, if your app doesn't have it, obviously you don't need it. Then we're going to run buffalo build. We're going to generate a new binary. In this case, I'm going to put it in the bin folder and just call it app. And then finally, our command when we start this will just be /bin/app. So that's kind of our default when we run this. And here we can just make sure that this all builds just fine. We can do docker build dot, which will run through our Docker build. You see it created the folders. It's now running npm install. And I'm going to shut up for a second, and I'm just going to let this go and speed it up a little bit. Okay, so our Docker container built, which is fantastic. It's not a step we necessarily needed to do locally, but I like to do that, obviously, just to make sure it actually works. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually create an app on Heroku here. I'm just going to use the generic Heroku create and see what it gives me. Damp chamber 57791. Okay. So now before we deploy, we want to set one environment variable, which is the go env. We can set that to production. There we go. We're also going to add the Postgres add-on here. So let's make sure I get this command, see if I get this command right on the first pass here. So I'm going to create a new Heroku Postgres database. This is the free hobby developer database that they give you, which is obviously good enough for what we're doing here. And if I look at Heroku config, I have two database configuration variables set, a database URL, and my Go env, which is all I really need because when we generate a Buffalo app, the database YAML, for Postgres anyway, automatically sets the production to either use the database URL environment variable or a local string. So in this case, when it's up on Heroku, it should find that environment variable and use that. We hope. So we've set our configuration. We've set up Postgres on Heroku. Now all we need to do is Heroku container push web. Web is Heroku's name. That tells Heroku that this is going to kind of run under the web moniker. So i.e. this is a web app. This is not workers or anything like that. It's not something that Buffalo requires. It's a Heroku thing. So just be aware of that. So we are pushing up our image. Now, first pushes are a little slower than subsequent pushes because parts of it are obviously cached in their registry, which is fantastic. So once this gets mounted, there we go. If we run Heroku Open, it should, fingers crossed, bring us to our application. Like all Heroku apps, it's a little slow the first launch as it kind of processes everything and gets everything set up. I find the Docker instances to be slightly slower to launch than non-Docker Heroku instances, but there we go. You can see it's actually up there. And subsequent hits of the page are very, very fast. So all we need to do now is actually run our migrations. Actually, we haven't even done any migrations yet. All we've done is put a static page up there. So let's do something a little more interesting here. Let's do not Heroku, but rather Buffalo. We'll create a new resource. We'll call it posts because it's going to be like a blog post, right? It's going to have a title and it's going to have a body, which is of type text. Here we go. And we could do... let's see here. We'll add this all to our Git here. Let's see, added posts. There you go. The Git step isn't necessary at all, but again, something I like to do. So now we can do Heroku container push web again. So it's going to build our container again, and knowing that things have changed. So again, the npm install honestly is always the slowest thing I find. So I'm going to shut up and let it build. Okay, so we've built it and we've deployed it. And if we go back to the web app itself, again, that first hit, it's got to do that Heroku build step, which is common for every Heroku app. So it takes just an extra couple seconds to load up the environment for Heroku here. But once it does that, again, it's actually very, very fast, which is really nice. So here we go. We can see our app has successfully been updated. We can see all the posts here. But if we go to /posts, see we have a problem here, and that's because we haven't run our migrations yet. So we can do Heroku run.bin/app migrate, because our Buffalo, when Buffalo builds our application, it gives us that nice sub migrate command that we can use. And so all we're going to do is we're going to execute that on the Heroku server. And hopefully it should use the production database and not return any errors when it does so. So let's see what happens here as it connects and runs our migrations for us. So there we go, running migrations, create posts. So now if we go back to the page, voila, there we go. We can create a new post. Hello, and we could say, hello from Heroku and Docker and Buffalo. And there we go. We have successfully taken a local Buffalo app. We've built a very simple Docker file to go with it using the Docker Buffalo images that we have. We've created a new Heroku application. We've set up Postgres on it. We've pushed our Docker file, our Docker image up to Heroku. We've set up migration. We've run migrations. We've set up configuration variables, and we now have an application on Heroku that is ready to go and for the world to enjoy. So that is it for now. Thank you very much, and enjoy. This video was brought to you by Gopher Guides. If you're an organization, conference, or user group that is looking for Go training, please visit gopherguides.com. All training is custom designed to match your educational needs.